ultra-realistic daytime scene with vibrant colors, clear skies, and sharp details, no shadows. Doctor Strange stands the center, his face a mixture of guilt and determination, as alien ships hover ominously above Earth, blocking the sunlight. The background shows New York City in chaos, smoke rising from the streets, debris flying through the air, and the skyline darkened by the alien presence. Strange's hands glow with magic, his eyes locked on the threat above. The Avengers are scattered in the background, caught in disarray, trying to defend the city, but clearly shocked by the fact that Strange is the cause of this chaos. The mistake. Dr. Stephen Strange, once known as Earth's protector, now faced a decision that would alter the course of humanity's fate. Strange had encountered the Sorthians, a mysterious alien race capable of bending minds and manipulating reality. These creatures were unlike any foes he had faced before. Their intentions were unclear, and their power was immeasurable. The strange energy they radiated seemed to warp time itself, making it nearly impossible to discern friend from foe. When Doctor Strange first confronted the Sorthians, he had no idea what he was dealing with. Their leader, Xar, was an imposing figure. With his eyes glowing a fierce, unnatural blue, he seemed to radiate an aura of malice. Strange immediately assumed that Xar was the leader of the invading force. But in the heart of battle, something didn't feel right. Xar's demeanor was different from the ruthless invaders he'd faced before. There was a deeper intelligence in his eyes, a purpose far greater than mere conquest. Yet Strange's mind was clouded. Desperation to protect Earth pushed him to make a snap decision. This must be the enemy, he thought. He summoned his full, mystical powers, using his knowledge of the dark arts to strike down Xar in a decisive blow. The alien warlord fell, his body disintegrating in the harsh energy of Strange's spell. In that moment, as the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded, Strange felt an unusual sense of victory. The immediate danger had passed, or so he thought. But then, as Xar's final breath escaped him, the alien whispered a chilling truth. "You've killed the wrong one." The words were barely audible as the life drained from the prince's body, but they struck Doctor Strange like a blow. In the brief silence that followed, the weight of what had just occurred began to dawn on him. He'd killed the Sorthian prince, the protector of his people, a being who had been working to prevent the invasion, not initiate it. The realization hit Strange hard. Xar wasn't the enemy. He had been the only one trying to stop the very invasion that Doctor Strange had unintentionally triggered. It was not just a mistake. It was a catastrophic error that would doom Earth to a war it was unprepared for. Strange stood over the prince's fallen form, unable to comprehend what had just happened. How could he have made such a fatal misstep? The Sorthian queen, Xar'kla, was now fully aware of Earth's vulnerability, and the invasion would continue. Worse, the queen would now seek revenge for her son's death, a death that Doctor Strange had caused. In the quiet aftermath of the battle, Strange's guilt was overwhelming. He had not only killed an innocent being, but he had also made a choice that could cost millions of lives. The future of Earth hung in the balance, and it was all due to his mistake. The fate of Earth, once in his hands, now seemed entirely out of his control. But he knew one thing. He had to find a way to fix what he had broken. But how? Where would he go from here? Doctor Strange's mistake was undeniable, and its consequences were devastating. The moment he killed Xar, the Sorthian prince, his life, and the fate of Earth took a dark turn. What began as a misjudgment quickly spiraled into something far worse. The Avengers, who had once trusted him implicitly, were now looking at him with suspicion and anger. His guilt weighed heavily on him, but there was no time to explain himself, no room for redemption in their eyes. The situation worsened as the truth of the Sorthian invasion became clearer. The Sorthian queen, Xar'kla, the true threat, now had no reason to hold back. Without Xar's restraint, her forces moved with unprecedented speed. Earth was under siege, and no hero, was prepared for the full scale of the alien empire's wrath. Strange knew that he could no longer fight this battle alone. The weight of his mistake pressed down on him with every passing moment. The Avengers were furious, and rightly so. The team had been betrayed, not just by a colleague, but by someone they had fought beside countless times. Strange could feel the mistrust seeping into every interaction. He was no longer welcome among them. Every time he tried to explain, every time he tried to offer a solution, it fell on deaf ears. His own guilt and isolation only deepened. It was in these moments of desperation that he made the most dangerous decision of all: to join the enemy. Strange reached out to the one person who might give him a way out: Queen Xar'kla herself. He knew it was a gamble, and he knew that by doing so he would be sealing his fate in a way that could never be undone. But he was no longer concerned with his own soul. The only thing that mattered now was stopping the full-scale Sorthian invasion. If he had to work with the very enemy he had fought against for so long, so be it. Xar'kla, with her sharp red eyes and cold, calculating demeanor, knew exactly how to manipulate him. She knew Strange's greatest weakness: guilt. And in his shame, she saw an opportunity to make him bend to her will. The deal she offered him was clear: assist her in bringing down Earth's defenses, and she would allow him to have his redemption. The catch? In the process, he would betray his own people. Strange hesitated, but only for a moment. His mind was torn, but the burden of his failure had already weighed too heavily on him. He had caused this. He had given Xar'kla the means to attack. If he wanted to stop her, if he wanted to make things right, he would have to work with the enemy. The moment Strange agreed to her terms, everything changed. He donned the guise of an ally to the Sorthian forces, using his mystic powers to subtly sabotage Earth's defenses while leading the Sorthians to victory. As the Avengers scrambled to prepare for the full assault, Strange knew he was deep in enemy territory, but it was the only way he saw to make up for the destruction he had caused. The betrayal was complete, and the Avengers knew it. Captain America, Thor, and Spider-Man all felt the sting of Strange's treachery. He had joined forces with the enemy, and they could never trust him again. But Strange wasn't thinking about their trust anymore. He was thinking about how to fix the irreparable damage he had done. And for that, he was willing to pay any price, even if it meant turning against the very people he had once called friends. The air was thick with tension as Dr. Strange stood alone, facing the team he had once fought beside, trusted, and called family. The Avengers had gathered in their makeshift war room, and all eyes were on him. There was no turning back now. His betrayal was out in the open. The alien ships were descending. The Sorthian invasion had begun, and Strange was the one who had unwittingly handed them the key to Earth's destruction. Yet, it wasn't just the Sorthians that threatened the planet. It was the fracture within the Avengers that was now just as dangerous. Captain America's shield was gripped tightly in his hands, his face a mixture of disbelief and fury. "How could you?" Steve Rogers' voice cracked as he stepped forward, his posture tense. "We trusted you, Strange. You were our teammate, our ally." "And you," he paused, visibly struggling with the words, his voice shaking with hurt. "You betrayed us. You betrayed Earth." Strange's eyes were downcast, his mind still grappling with the weight of his actions. His hands, usually steady, now trembled with the shame of what he had done. "I thought I could fix it. I thought I was doing what was necessary," he murmured, his voice heavy with guilt. He could feel the weight of their judgment, could see it in their eyes. But all the words he could muster seemed so empty now. Thor's voice boomed from the other side of the room, filled with raw anger. "You are the Sorcerer Supreme, Strange. You've seen countless realities. Yet you made the gravest error possible. You killed the wrong one." The Thunder God's hammer was clenched in his hand, ready to strike. But his fury was aimed at the man he had once called a friend. Strange's heart felt like it was being ripped in two. The truth of his mistake, the magnitude of his failure, was unbearable. He had killed an innocent being, Xar, the Sorthian prince who had been fighting to save Earth, not conquer it. He had handed Earth over to the real threat, the ruthless Xar'kla. But worse, he had betrayed the Avengers, the people who had fought beside him in countless battles. The cost of his mistake was not only the lives lost, but the trust that was forever shattered. Spider-Man, the youngest and most vulnerable of the group, stepped forward, his face twisted with hurt and confusion. "I don't get it, Doc," Peter Parker said, his voice soft but filled with disbelief. "You were the one who taught us that sacrifice is part of being a hero. But this isn't the same. How could you just turn on us?" His words cut through Strange like a knife, and for a moment, He couldn't look the young hero in the eye. Strange opened his mouth to speak, but the words wouldn't come. He knew he had no excuses. No explanation would justify his actions. The betrayal had been too deep, the consequences too severe. His decision to join the Sorthian queen, to work alongside the enemy in a misguided attempt to fix his mistake, had turned the Avengers against him. And the alien invasion was only growing stronger. They needed to stop Xar'kla, but without the Avengers, how could they possibly defeat the threat? Strange's heart ached with the realization that he had lost more than just his place among the Avengers. He had lost their trust, maybe forever. In his quest to undo one mistake, he had created countless others. And now, as Earth teetered on the edge of destruction, he was left with only one choice: to fight alone and find redemption. But would the Avengers ever forgive him? And even if they did, would Earth survive long enough to be saved? The air crackled with tension as the final battle loomed over New York City. The streets were littered with the wreckage of destroyed buildings, alien ships hovering ominously above, casting long shadows over the city below. Strange stood at the heart of it all, surrounded by the wreckage of his own decisions. He was alone now. The Avengers had turned their backs on him, and his once trusted allies were now fighting a war without him. Strange had betrayed them, and now Earth was paying the price. Dr. Strange's hands glowed with mystical energy as he stood on the rooftop, watching the alien ships descend. The Sorthian queen Xar'kla was poised for the final strike. With Xar's death, the invaders had unleashed their full fury, determined to subjugate Earth. But Strange knew one thing: he had to stop them. He had to stop Xar'kla, and he was the only one who could do it. As Strange prepared to act, the familiar hum of magic surrounded him. His mind raced as he realized that the enemy's power had grown beyond anything he could have imagined. Even with his vast knowledge of mystic arts, Strange knew that facing Xar'kla head-on was a suicide mission. The Queen's power was too great. Her ships were too numerous. Earth's defenses were crumbling beneath the weight of her invasion. But then, out of the smoke and destruction, came a figure. Strange's heart skipped a beat. It was Xar. "You didn't kill me, Strange," the Sorthian prince said, his voice calm yet filled with purpose. The glow of magic swirled around him, and Strange could hardly believe his eyes. "You killed a decoy. I've been hiding in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to expose the truth." The realization hit Strange like a bolt of lightning. Xar had survived, and in doing so had been working against his own mother, Queen Xar'kla, to stop the invasion. The true nature of the Sorthians had been hidden from him all along. While Strange had been blinded by guilt and his desire to right his wrongs, he had failed to see that the very person he had killed was the one trying to save Earth. The betrayal he had felt had been his own. "I was trying to stop her the whole time," Xar continued, his voice full of pain and resolve. "She used your guilt to manipulate you. You were never meant to be her ally. But now that you know the truth, it's time to stop her for good." With new resolve, Strange's hands crackled with magic. Xar extended his arm, revealing a hidden artifact that could reverse the damage done by the Sorthian queen. Together, they had the power to destroy the invading force once and for all. The final battle began. Strange and Xar stood side by side, using their combined magic to dismantle the Sorthian forces. It was an all-out war in the skies above, with alien ships falling one by one. Strange spells lashed out, each one aimed at the heart of Xar'kla's power. But the queen, fueled by rage, fought back with a ferocity that nearly overwhelmed them. As the battle reached its peak, Strange made a daring move, using his own life force to power a final spell. The magic surged, engulfing the entire battlefield in a blinding light. When the light cleared, the Sorthian queen's forces were decimated, and her ship lay in ruins. The invasion was over. Strange stood alone amid the wreckage, his body weak but victorious. The Avengers arrived just in time to see the aftermath. Strange had redeemed himself, but at what cost? His betrayal was still fresh in their minds, and though he had saved Earth, he knew the road to redemption wouldn't be easy. The battle had been won, but his path to forgiveness was far from over. As the Avengers gathered, Strange looked at them, his eyes filled with remorse and determination. There was no more running from his past. He had to earn their trust back, and he would do whatever it took.